On today's Question of Faith, what's up with World Youth Day? Hey everybody, this is Question of Faith. I'm Mike Hayes. I'm the Young Adult Ministry Director in the Diocese of Cleveland.
And I'm Fr Damian and Mike, the Vicar for Evangelization.
And everyone's doing like weird voices, Fr Eric Garris, the Vocation Director for the Diocese.
What's up with World Youth Day?
What's the deal with World Youth Day?
So you're heading to World Youth Day.
I am. If you're listening to this, I'm probably there.
Yeah.
So we're kind of like time traveling right now.
Yeah. So have you been before is my first question.
I have not been before.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah, first
time maiden voyage.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
WYD.
Yeah, but I'll be going with so there's a couple groups going for the Diocese of Cleveland. St. Mary's and Hudson's bringing a group, and then I will be going with St. Charles Borromeo and St. Francis of Assisi with some stragglers from different parishes who are joining up as well.
Right.
Is there another group?
Those are the three
Those
that
are
I
three
know
that I know of.
Yeah.
And now you've been many times.
I've been to 4 World Youth
You
Days.
beat me. Okay.
I've been Paris 97, Rome 2000, Toronto 2002, and Germany, Cologne, in 2005. So, like Father Steve Flynn, I went with him in 2005. He was a seminarian, I was a priest. I went with St. Charles to Toronto and to Rome. So, and you know, Korak's, he wasn't there then, but he is there now, Father Josh Korak. And it's going to be great. It's going to be splendid.
Yeah. And then I went Toronto, 2002 with Busted Halo, and then I went as sort of a reporter for Busted Halo in Sydney, Australia in 2008 with Charis Ministries, which was a Jesuit retreat ministry in Chicago. I traveled with them. And then I went with Canisius College in 2016, into Krakow.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, this time around it's in Portugal, so we'll be in Lisbon for like 5 days along with, how many people go to this? Like 15, 20, 30 people?
How many I don't know how many are registered. I know in Rome, in the Jubilee year, there were 2 million.
Yeah. I'm hearing somewhere like 400,000. Does that sound about right?
That would be a low estimate, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Now, who knows with, COVID and things like that,
right.
how many people are
Because this is the
away.
COVID-delayed one that they're pushing. But I have no idea. Part of the glory of pilgrimage is that you're just on the journey. And I think the amazing things about like World Youth Day, I was thinking back to when I was a senior in high school, it was the first time where I experienced the church for more than just Our Lady of Mount Carmel and Wycliffe, and it was the March for Life. And I'm like, this is amazing. There's 30,000 people my age. And it's like, this is amazing. There's 1 million people my age. So I think for a lot of young people, it's a huge thing to experience the church in such a big and vibrant way.
It keeps getting bigger every time I go. That's not really true. So Toronto, I think, was 800,000 was what they said.
I'm going to check.
In Sydney, it was smaller because it was a much farther distance to travel. So I think it was only like 400,000.
And more expensive.
And much more expensive, I actually had to pay for Busted Halo couldn't afford to send me. I had to pay for half of it, and they had to pay for half of it. But I had never been to Australia, so I was like, yeah, let's go.
Well, I remember going to Paris. This was my second time on a plane. I flew up to Maine the fall before, and so this would have been August 1997. I would have been 21 years old, and like you said, Father Eric, I really hadn't left Cleveland much and traveled all that much, and then all of a sudden, here I am in Paris, and Pope John Paul II's there, who I've read about, and I'd read his work, and then I'm sitting with people from South America, Africa, all of Europe, Asia. He's speaking and welcoming us in all these languages. I was like, oh my gosh, it was wonderful. I was overwhelmed. I felt I was part of something huge. I also felt I was part of something old and something beautiful all at once. And as hard as it was, and pilgrimage is difficult, it's also how you grow. There's spiritual principles written into pilgrimage. This is why we do pilgrimages, right? They're not done because they're easy. They're hard, but they're good, like a lot of things.
And it's not like, and I'm aware of the fact that it's not going to be a cushy, comfortable thing. Like we're sleeping in a field one night.
Yeah.
I just last week, so it was Amazon Prime Day, and they were telling us like, we don't know what's going to happen with food. Like you'll probably eat, but we don't know how it's all going to look. So I bought a bunch of baby food. Like
That's
those pouches of food. because I'm like, I don't know when I'm going to eat. So it's deliberately like there's an uncomfortability to it, like because you're not in charge, but like it's the experience, it's the journey, man. It's all about the journey, bro.
Well, I remember in Paris they gave you and actually Toronto and Rome too, and Cologne, they give you boxed lunches,
Yes,
right?
correct, yeah.
And so there's some Spam in there, some crackers. And at first I was like, I'm American. I'm used to this. And then everyone else, I'm like, I'll just eat it. And it was fine. It was fine.
Yeah, it's edible food.
It gets you out of your comfort zone.
My friend says that it reminds him. This sounds horrible, but he said it reminds him of a refugee camp. He said there's all these people kind of like just milling about, and then this big truck comes in and just drops food off. And he was like, "It's crazy."
Yeah.
I used to say all the time to the students before we would go, I would say, "Okay, look, if you're going to go on this trip, you have to adhere to a couple of rules. Here's the first rule. First rule is the most important rule, which is no whining." You know, it's going to be hot. There's going to be a lot of people there. It's going to be hard to find food sometimes. No whining. I don't care, right? Just don't whine. You're going to make it terrible for everybody. Now, if you like the first rule, the second rule is even better. No, I mean it. No whining. It's the second rule. And then the third rule is if you could adhere to the first two rules, Mike will buy you food. Mike will figure it out. I know how to do this. I will figure out how to get you food. And they were, I got to tell you, they were terrific. They really did not whine. And I said, and if I'm the one who's whining, you should get all over me.
Right.
And they did. Yeah. Like
and
the one time I whined.
And I'm excited, like, I'm sure Fr Damian, like, will attest to the fact that, like, I'm sure a lot of the seeds of your priesthood and vocation were sown and nourished and nurtured, like, in this environment of, like, this is the church that I love and I want to give my life to.
Yeah.
And just to be with the young men, young women who are on that path of discernment of, like, core memory, core church experiences that really stretch.
Yeah, I remember not caring at all about who the Pope was until maybe 1993, because there was a big portrait of John Paul II at Incarnate Word Academy. I'd be like, that guy doesn't look too happy. I knew nothing about him. We prayed for him. But then World Youth Day 1993 happened in the United States, and it was in Denver. And I wasn't that interested. I don't think St. Charles went. Holy Family in Parma went. And I remember some of my classmates going and coming back talking about this. And I remember being my senior year of high school was a time of major conversion for me. And there used to be a magazine out called You, Y-O-U apostrophe. And within there, I saw pictures of this young guy. They were black and white pictures. He was kayaking, skiing, hanging out with his young people. And they said this was the Pope. I'm like, what the heck? What? And so I started reading. And then I was reading his addresses to young people. I'm like, the church and the Pope cares about me and has something to say. And I thought that was fascinating. And so then I started, I remember in seminary, my first year reading Gift and Mystery. John Paul came in 95. And there was an opportunity for me to go in 97. And that was wonderful. And he was so darn good with young people and the way that he had banter. I remember in Rome, so the way that it works, there's all sorts of activity leading up. And then it's usually a Saturday night. You have a vigil with the Pope. There's musicians and witnesses and testimonies, a lot of prayer, and then the Pope preaches, and then he goes, leaves on his helicopter, comes back the next day for a big mass. And John Paul II just didn't want to leave, and we were being like, John Paul II, we love you. And then he'd say, perhaps I love you more. And I know I should go to bed, but let's continue this dialogue. I was like, what? So, yeah, I love that. Pope Benedict was a little different. There was more silence and quiet. He was a little more introverted.
Yep, same in Sydney. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember watching. Where was the first one? Was it in Brazil? In
Correct.
Buenos Aires? Is that right?
I think the first one was Rome, and then they went to Buenos Aires.
No. When the first one for Pope Francis. Yes,
it was in Brazil. Yes, you're
correct.
It was
in Brazil. What was the city?
I don't know. Rio?
It's the one,
Rio?
With the big...
Rio de Janeiro.
With the big Jesus statue. Yeah.
Rio.
Okay,
Rio.
Keep saying it. But what I remember about that when I watched it on TV, Matt Maher had just recently written
yes.
Lord, I Need You. And they did a holy hour, and Matt's kneeling there behind the Holy Father just with his acoustic guitar leading in Lord, I Need You. I was like, oh my gosh, that was really awesome.
Yeah. And you could hear a pin drop.
Yeah,
like it was real quiet. The million people out on the beach of Rio.
Yeah,
and you could hear a pin drop. Same thing in Poland. It was kind of cool. In Poland, one of my student leaders, they had us get these little sort of like crank radios to hear the translation of things. Mm-hmm. And so one of my students had one, and so he sort of became like the default translator for all of us. And so we're hearing Pope Francis's words through one of my students, which I just thought was really cool.
Yeah.
And he was saying, look, he said, you're here. He said, you're here to have an encounter with each other, right? And he said, no, you're here to have an encounter with one person and one person only, and that person is Jesus Christ. And the whole place just went crazy, you know.
I remember in 2005, so this was my only time as a priest, taking my own young people from St. Mary's in Hudson. And a lot of the kids I went on pilgrimage with, they're still very good friends of mine. A few of them are priests. And I don't know what you know about Hudson, but it's a really nice community with excellent schools. And the kids study language and take it very seriously. When I was in high school, I remember reading the handouts my freshman year about taking a taxi in an airplane. I'm like, I'm never going to take a taxi in an airplane. I don't care about Spanish. Like I never did any of the, do I really need any of this? So, but Hudson's a different story. So I remember when Pope Benedict came down the Rhine? Is that the river? The river,
Germany?
Rhine? Yeah.
Yeah, that's
right.
right.
Yeah.
I think that's right. Yeah.
The Rio.
No.
That's what river is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the...
Anyway.
Father Garris will be here all week.
We couldn't get... This was back in the day when we had like Walkman, and we couldn't find the translation, so everything was in one language. Well, he was speaking in different languages, but no one was translating it in English. So I gave it to Rich Samiti. He did the Spanish. Jen Patton did the German. Claire Doman did the French. And all my teenagers were able to like pass the headphones around and say what he was saying. And I was like, this is great.
Yeah.
These kids are awesome. And Kubera was there. Mann was there. Flynn, Samiti. I think those guys, they're all priests now.
I was going to say, and they were all in youth ministry then.
Yeah.
Correct? Yeah.
Well, Flynn was already in SEM. The other guys were just in their first year of SEM. Samiti was still in high school.
Yeah, we have about, I know in my group there's about 2 or 3 seminarians, and then St. Mary's and Hudson's bring in a couple guys, or there's some guys who are doing the Camino right now who are going to link up with the group. So it'll be fun.
Father Eric, what are you looking most forward to in your time going to World Youth Day?
It's hard to say, like, because I've not been, like, I've traveled a good amount, and I'm pretty flexible and good to be, on the road, but like just the experience of it and taking it all in. I think seeing the Church Universal, I like watching people like experience it as well. So like seeing the teens experience what they're going through and being able to chat about that, like I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to tasting the baby food that I bought. The chicken and rosemary, I think, is going to be a good one. But no, just the experience itself.
I think running into fellow pilgrims from other countries will be fun for you to watch.
Yes.
Because a lot of times the kids, if they have friendship bracelets or T-shirts or pins or stickers, they exchange.
Yeah.
I remember running into a group in Assisi in 2000, where it was a Polish group, and we had Mass together, and we did part of the Mass in English and part in Polish, and I was playing guitar at the time, and just it was awesome, just meeting people and building community around Christ, and just realizing how big the church is and how wonderful it is.
Yeah, we just got some new CLE priesthood vocation office stickers.
Oh,
nice.
And I think I'm going to bring a fat stack of those and
Yeah.
just pass those out. It'd be cool just to have people in,
Yeah,
Taiwan,
it's like
Taiwanese
the Olympics.
Catholics.
It's like the Olympics, so they trade things,
Yeah.
pins and jackets.
Do they have a
Something
thing?
like
Is there like a thing that they do, or just whatever you got?
No, just
Oh
whatever
yeah,
you
it's
got.
you just run into people, and a lot of times they're just trading stuff. Young people are. I'll give you some advice, and this is from my own experience. That at the closing Mass, usually it's Sunday morning, you go early, and if you're concelebrating, you could pick up a stolen chasuble.
Yeah.
But priests are like every other human being, and they'll get a little bit, unfortunately, a little vicious sometimes trying to get their chasuble and stole. And I remember when in Germany, this was the first time I was actually concelebrating, I wound up with a large or maybe an extra large chasuble and stole. And if you don't know, I am not a very large man. I'm 5'6" and 1/4. I weigh 163 pounds.
That 1/4 is very important.
Yeah, and by the end of the day, it's like 5'6" without the 1/4. But anyway, so I had to take it to my tailor Tatiana, and she made it fit for me.
Oh,
but,
good.
The other thing about the World Youth Day vestments that I think is funny is I have a priest friend. He's a bishop in Papua New Guinea now, Father Don Lippert, OFM Cap. At my ordination, he gave me his chasuble from Rome, and it's got flames on it. It looks like it's something from the 70s that's kind of tie-dyed. However, I would wear it at the seminary from time to time, and the new seminarians would be like, "Father, that's the ugliest thing I've ever seen." I'm like, "Really?" Because it's a gift from St. John Paul II to all the priests at World Youth Day. They're like, "Oh, it's not that bad. Actually, I kind of like it."
I did already look. I looked online
like
at like the vestments and stuff because I'm like, what am I getting into, man?
Yeah, what is it?
It's like a white with like a red and green little slide. It looks pretty simple.
Okay.
And then they said that they've got like
the logo.
chalices. You get to take the chalice with you.
What?
I don't know. I just looked online and there's like little chalices and little patens because everyone's got to get Jesus. So do you give those back?
You know what? I don't ever remember receiving the precious blood at a World Youth Day.
Yeah, I don't either.
Yeah.
So I guess it wasn't a valid
Celebration.
celebration. Darn it!
Yeah, you got to go back.
Well, okay. We'll go if we could do this in time. Yeah, that's interesting. I don't remember. I mean, but there's 2 million people there. How you? But of course, I only did it once, so maybe I did.
Oh, it's true.
Yeah.
Maybe I did. And in Cologne, maybe. Yeah, we were up close, so I must have.
Yeah, we're spending the night before,
Yeah.
or like after the vigil. Like we had to order our sleeping bags and
Right.
tents and cots or whatever. So
So when we slept out in Cologne, I brought a sleeping bag because I'm smart, and some of my folks didn't bring them, and they were all freezing and piling on together because it got to 50 degrees that night. So you never know how cold it's going to get. And one of our adult chaperones woke up, and she had slept on a rat. It was disgusting. They're like, "Fran slept on a rat." Yeah, it was wild. It was hilarious.
So I hold the record of being to 3 World Youth Days and never sleeping outside at the vigil.
Oh.
Now, yeah, so it sort of doesn't count, right? So,
yeah,
well,
you're not a pilgrim.
Yeah, you're like a bishop.
Yeah, you're a tourist.
that's funny. No, so like in Toronto, we actually had reason to go back, and I don't remember what the reason was, but we had to go back and couldn't stay outside.
Was it because there was a bed?
And then the next
That's a
day,
good reason.
that could be a good reason.
In a toilet. In a shower.
The shower. And then the next day, if you remember right, in Toronto, it rained like it's never rained before, and that place was really muddy and everything else. I mean, even just walking around there the next day was rough.
Well, what I remember about that, yes, it rained throughout the night. And it was raining all morning. They had music and announcements were like, "Just be quiet." They were trying to wake us up. And then the Mass started. By the time the gospel was done being read, the heavens parted, the sun came out, and
Yes.
John Paul said, "There is the sun." And it was like, yes.
This is sounding like, the more I think about it, this is Godstock.
Yeah, kind of.
You know?
Well, they did call it Catholic Woodstock.
Okay.
And they have called it that before.
Yeah, I like that.
But it is. But the nice thing too about World Youth Days is that there's never, knock on wood, there's never violence or like fights or anything like this. They're like, we've got all these young people together, and they're good to each other, and they're kind to each other, and they're doing good things.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful.
So if you're listening to this, pray for the pilgrims from the diocese.
Absolutely.
And I did see on Instagram that there's a song for World Youth Day
Yeah, there
that
always
someone
is,
wrote.
yeah.
But there's no song better than "We are one body in Christ." Except Emmanuel. There was the Emmanuel
And we do
song.
not
was
stand
the
when we eat my body and you drink
Yeah.
my blood.
So there's-
you will live in me.
that's
and you will live
Dana.
in my love.
Yes.
Why do I wind up getting hyperactive when I'm in your presence, Father Eric? Usually I'm a little calmer.
No, this is it's just the effect.
Yeah.
The Garris effect?
The EGO, Eric Garris.
I mean, I got a lot of energy,
EG.
but usually I'm a little more cerebral when we're talking.
Last
here,
time
Mike.
I was on with Mike, we decided that we were going to kick you off and just have Christian.
Oh, I listened to that. Believe me, I listened to that,
Yeah.
and I thought that's a bad idea.
Christy and I defended you. Just
No,
so you
it
know.
was good. Yeah, I keep things organized.
Yeah, this has been super organized.
Yeah, right. Well,
back to World Youth Day for a second. So this is so just to give myself a little bit of credit here. So when I didn't stay outside, that meant I had to walk the pilgrimage route twice.
Oh.
Right. So in Poland, the reason I didn't stay outside, I was fully prepared to stay outside. I had my sleeping bag, I had everything, and one of my students got sick, and she literally could not stay outside because she would have got pneumonia or something. So we went back to where we were staying, and she went into her quarters, I went to my quarters, and then we got up in the morning. We took all our stuff. We were staying in a hotel the last night before we would take off. We took an extra day to be in Poland, so we brought all our stuff down to the hotel. And then we said, well, we'll just get a bus, and we'll take the bus to the pilgrimage route, and then we'll walk it's not far. It's, I think it was 3 miles, so the pilgrimage route. We'll walk the pilgrimage route the rest of the way. Well, that would have worked out great, except we didn't realize one thing. When the papal motorcade is out in the city, they shut down all public transportation. So I said, well, we could just walk to the pilgrimage route from the hotel, I guess. And so I asked the concierge, I said, so how far is it to this pilgrimage route? And she goes, that's like 12 miles. And so I'm like, well, guess that's what we're doing. Yeah. So we walked 12 miles there, walked the pilgrimage route, somehow found the other students we were with, and then it started to rain when we were coming back, and we couldn't get on one of the little trams, which was fortunate because everybody who was on one of those little trams looked horrible. They're like people were writing "Help me" in the fog on the window because it was just nasty.
Because there's people from other languages.
But we ended up having to walk back. Now, of course, we knew the route back, so that was fine. So I ended up walking a marathon that day. Wow. I literally walked 26 miles.
I can't wait. That's what I'm looking forward to. Just wild World Youth Day stories coming back in like a month and being like, what happened at World Youth Day? Well, here's what happened.
And the most important part of this story is that when we were walking there, we got stopped halfway by the Polish National Guard, and they go, stop, walk back 100 meter. No, okay, don't shoot, And we walked back, and he looked at me, and I said, gave him like a little head nod and said, like, what's going on? And he said, Papish motorcade. Goes like that, and so Pope Francis's motorcade passed us right by, and he looked out, so I got a nice little papal drive-by video of him going by. So we won the closest to the Pope contest at that World Youth Day.
St. Mary's is going to Poland for a couple days, and then they're going to go. The group I'm going with, we're going to go to France and Lourdes and Paris before, and then we're going to Lisbon, and then like a day in Barcelona, and we're flying out of Barcelona.
Yes.
Our friend, Father Steve Breck, the great Father Stephen Harlan Breck, likes to say, making memories. And that's what you're going to be doing here. So when you're having hard times and, maybe the seminarians start getting a little whiny, you're like, hey, guys, we're making memories here.
Father Steve Breck also used to say it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's what I'll keep saying. We're making memories. It's the right thing to do.
And he went on World Youth Day to Sydney. I know that.
With Father Kim Klonowski.
Yeah, he was mentoring him heavily at that point.
Yeah.
They swam in the Great Barrier Reef.
Yep. Beyond the beach, all those kinds of things.
Under the sea.
Under the sea.
Went to go see Koala, which was fun.
I hear koalas are mean.
They can be. Well, they sedate them at the reserves. So, I have some. I'll show you later. I have some great pictures of me with Koala, and one where the koala is like kind of reaching out to one of my friends and the thing.
Yeah. Sedated really Koala would be a great band name.
That would be, That's a good name for an indie band. That's a feature on this podcast.
Do you think the koala this famous picture of John Paul II holding a koala, it was sedated?
Absolutely, yeah.
I think it was sedated by the spirit.
Because they do sort of claw, and this is disgusting, they do pee on you if they're a little wild, so...
Well, they get a little scared.
Yeah, so I'm sure that
everyone gets scared.
Sedated. But let me tell you, there's no reason to be afraid of this week's softball update. Okay, in our makeup game, Catching Flamingos knocked off St. Vitus 13-7. A 6th-run, 5th inning broke it open for the Flamingos. Bailey Archacki, 3 hits in a substitution role, along with David Miller and Jimmy Ludwig, who also had 2 RBIs each. Let's stick with the Flamingos as we head into our regularly scheduled games. They swept a doubleheader day by destroying the Southtown Sabres 18-3. Jimmy Ludwig with his first homer, 4 RBIs to go along with 3 hits. David Miller, 3 hits, 2 RBIs. Zach Hammer-Huber also a homer and 4 RBIs. Big League Chew continued their winning ways with an 11-8 win over the Westside Whitecaps, knocking them out of the playoffs. A 6th-run 5th inning brought them back from an 8-5 deficit. Tyler Meter hit his 2nd home run. That ties him for the league lead for the Whitecaps. Joe Vicario, 3 hits. Kat Linville with a big 4 RBI day for the Chew. They are atop the standings, tied with the Flamingos at 4-1. They'll play for the top seed next week against the Southside Sabres. The Flamingos get the Ite Project. Speaking of those folks at the Ite Project, they're headed to the playoffs. A 12-8 win over Chosen Ones. Jared Humphrey with a triple and 3 RBIs, 3 hits for Jason Roberts. Joe Popchik, 3 hits for the Chosen. The Chosen Ones now with their backs against the wall, a must-win situation against St. Vitus next week. That's because St. Vitus roared past the Lakesiders 11-7 in the nightcap behind 3 hits and 3 RBIs from Joe Nitsch. A hard-luck loss for the Lakeside team as they're now out of the playoff hunt, but Anthony Mancini had a Sports Center-like catch in center field, and Victoria Uhazy also with an additional great grab in the second. So it'll all come down next week to St. Vitus and the Chosen Ones as they look to get that final playoff seed. All other games will only determine seeding. We'll be back at Meyer Park for the final week of the regular season. St. Vitus and Chosen Ones with their first pitch at 3:45. Other games, Big League Chew against Southside at 12:45. Catching Flamingos will take on the Ite Project at 2:15. The Flamingos have the tie break, so they've at least clinched the second seed for the playoff journey. And the Westside Whitecaps take on the Lakesiders at the end of the day at 5:15. League leaders, you ask? Ed Winterberg and Phil Wancata fighting it out for the batting crown, each hitting .900. Tyler Meter not far behind at .889. Home run race is deadlocked at 2 with Tyler Meter, Ed Winterberg, and Matt Liberatore all with 2 home runs. Runs batted in have Wancata and Winterberg each with 14. Ben Pollock from the Chosen Ones with 10. And leading the league with 10 hits, Catherine Linville, Joe Vicario, and Jimmy Ludwig, all with 10 each. Phil Wancata and Ed Winterberg on their heels with 9. Meter and his teammate Tom Bruno, along with Ben Pollock, all have 8 hits. You're up to date. I'm Mike Hayes.
Are there readings?
There are. So for the upcoming Sunday, the 17th Sunday in Ordinary Time, I'm going to take the first reading today from the first book of Kings. Give your servant, therefore, an understanding heart to judge your people and to distinguish right from wrong, for who is able to govern this vast people of yours? One of my favorite readings.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's often read at like inaugural addresses and things like that. That's usually the Bible selection that a lot of people have taken in the past.
Yeah. I love that passage because it's a heart that, what he's essentially asking is, Lord, give me a heart that knows your will, right? That like to do what is right, to seek what is true. I think with all the election stuff, what can we ask the Lord for? An understanding heart. What am I called to do? How am I called to act? What's going on here?
Well, I'll take the responsorial psalm, Psalm 119. Lord, I love your commands. When I was younger, I didn't always love the Lord's commands. And I think a sign of spiritual growth and real freedom, virtue, is that when you like what the Lord likes. So
right.
The older I get, I'm finding that that's the case, and I'm grateful for that, by God's grace. Oh, I rhymed.
There we go. So have a good time at World Youth Day.
And with your spirit.
Thank you.
Yeah, pray for us over there.
I will.
And we will pray for you here.
It's kind of blowing my mind that people who are listening to this are listening to it while I'm there, but I'm not there because I'm here. And here is already there, right? Because here has never existed before. You're going to leave this in, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. You can always say, I've never been here before, and it's true, because like this moment's never existed.
That's right.
It's true.
You're a philosopher.
Except for God, where there is no past or future. He
right.
sees all at once.
There's also no east or west. Isn't there that song? In Christ there is no east or west.
Yes, there is that song. But that's not the song we go out to. We go out to rock and roll on this show.
And
yeah, play us out.
And that's what we do each and every week here on Question of Faith.